about out of time. So let me jump ahead here to what we see with home sales activity and so forth. I have done to this, the blue line is Wichita and the red line is the United States. This is existing home sales. And I've indexed it to the 1st of 2005, which is pretty near the peak of the market. The market went up just a little bit through 2005, but where we are compared to the peak of the market. And so you can see U.S. right now, home sales in the 4th quarter of this year, the number was about 68. And so that means that home sales are down about 32% compared to where they were in December of 2008, 32% lower than they were at the beginning of 2005. Wichita is faring a little bit better. We're here at about 78%, so we're down about 22%. The thing that I see, first of all, you can see the tax credit spikes there really clearly, right? The spike up is when the first tax credit came, the drop off afterward, then the June tax credit and the drop off. We then kind of recovered from the tax credit, and since then, we've seen halting, but pretty solid growth now for about a year and a half in existing home sales. And I am really optimistic in terms of the next couple of years or so and what this means for our housing market. Wichita housing market has fared better than many across the state. I think only Manhattan is really looking better right now. And we think that sales are on track to increase in this coming year, but we're coming from a really low level. It's going to take some time years before we get back to the levels of where we were up here in 2005 and 2006. But I like the fact that the market is returning to a more normal pattern, the seasonal pattern, and I think I show that here. You can see here in 2010, this red line is the month, this is sales by month in each of these years. And so the normal seasonal pattern is sales go up in the spring and then fall off in the fall and winter, right? In 2010, you can see this really big bump that happened in April, May, and June with the tax credit, and then it dropped really sharp, right? In 2009, you can even see that bump here from the tax credit that expired in November of 2009. 2010, on the other hand, looks pretty normal with a pretty nice bump in December, which was unexpected. Has a normal pattern here to the sales activity. I like the fact that that's normal. Existing home sales in 2011 actually ended up coming in above the 2010 numbers, which I think is really positive given that a lot of the 2010 sales were tax credit induced. I think we stole sales from 2011 that were brought forward. People who would have waited a little bit, but they could do it with the tax credit. I think sales would have been even stronger in 2011 if we hadn't had the tax credit in 2010. So I think this bodes well for some normalcy in the housing market. Skip over the COVs, you all know those numbers. And let me jump to new home market, and I'll jump here to the building permits. Basically, building permits are just hovering around the bottom. And I had somebody call me yesterday from the Business Journal. I don't know if there was an article. No, it wouldn't have been in today's paper. It would have been something they'll do. Today isn't Friday. Maybe it'll be in Friday's paper. We'll see. Talking about new home sales. And I said, I don't really see us having any meaningful rebound in new home sales or new home construction activity until we've had at least a year of good churning on the existing side. Most new home buyers have an existing home to sell. And so they need to have confidence that if I put the contract with the builder to build the home, that I will be able to sell my home in the 6 months that it's going to take to have there. And right now, I just don't think most people have that confidence. Normal churning in the existing home market will free up what I think is some pretty significant pent-up demand in the new home. Yes?
Hey, of those home sales that you had up there, you have one that's foreclosure home sales versus...
I do not have that breakdown in these. That breakdown doesn't show up in the MLS data. I would say, with respect to foreclosure sales, there is a significant number of sales that are foreclosure related. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have right now is on the appraisal side of things. And now the complaint is not being levied at county appraisers, it's being levied at private appraisers. So you can go, not us this time. I don't think that appraisals right now are adequately, in many cases, they're not adequately reflecting the differential value of a distressed sale versus an arm's length transaction. And that's coming because of pressures that come up the line from underwriters and from secondary market agencies and from regulators, that any appraisal is just it's gone through with a fine-tooth comb, and people are nitpicking everything, only trying to find reasons to bring the value lower. And my personal view is that right now the market is being artificially repressed. It's being held down in part because of the appraisal issue, because we're not letting market transactions, arm's length sale between a willing buyer and a willing seller who have agreed on a price with no undue influence affecting their actions. Everything we go and define a market value, the definition of market value. If we've got a willing buyer and a willing seller who fit all those conditions, we ought to let that price be the market value. But appraisers are under tremendous pressure right now to come up with numbers lower than that. And it's driving numbers down. Sellers then have to decide, do I just accept that lower price? Very frequently they do, because they're fearful that it's only going to get worse. And then that sets a comp that just keeps driving the market down. So I have grave concerns about that right now, being hampering a recovery in the market.
I share that same view.
Yeah.
What do you know about reverse mortgages? Are you seeing them a lot?
I don't have numbers to track reverse mortgages, so I couldn't tell you their prevalence or not. Do you all, is there any way in the Register of Deeds data where you would know definitively it was reverse? I mean, you could obviously go and look at the terms of the mortgage agreement. No, but the note itself isn't even filed there. It's just the mortgage. So you know the amount for which it's been collateralized, but you don't know what the size of the note is. So I don't know of any particular way that I don't have direct data. Industry data, Inside Mortgage Finance or others would have some aggregate numbers nationwide, but I don't know of anyone who tracks it locally. I think that there's a lot of fear on reverse mortgage from borrowers. It's a niche product. It's an extremely valuable product for a small group of people for whom it really fits their needs. And like any other niche product, it's one that if it's misused by people who don't understand it or it doesn't fit their needs, then it could have some problems. I had a friend once who was talking about financial derivatives. And he said that financial derivatives are like a scalpel. Okay? If you give me a scalpel, it's a dangerous weapon, right? If you have it in the hands of a skilled surgeon, it's a very valuable tool. You don't want to ban scalpels because they could be misused by someone. Instead, you want to make sure that they're available and useful for the people for whom they're a useful tool, and then find ways to mitigate their misuse. And I think that's true for a lot of mortgage products and other things as well. I've used up all my time and more, I think, so I hope it was interesting and worthwhile. I will email to you the PowerPoint that I had here today so you guys can put it and see the rest of my slides that I didn't go through on your website. Thank you very much.